For the first 2.5 years of my college experience, I would end up praying in a library staircase because that's the only place where I knew that no one was going to see me.
There are approximately 3.4 million Muslims in the US, making up about 1.1% of the country's population. Of those Muslims, 55% identify as Sunni Muslims, while 16% identify as Shia Muslims, with the rest identifying as neither. With sectarianism rife in many parts of the Middle East, we wanted to explore how Sunni and Shia students coexist in one of the most diverse places in the world, New York City.
We met at Jummah actually.
Yeah.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah.
And then I met Rayyan at a conference.
And then I met Noor working on a non-profit organization.
In Jersey.
Predominantly, I've been exposed to a lot of Sunni Muslims throughout my life. And typically in that Islamic upbringing, you only learn about the Sunni perspective of Islam, where in reality, there is that Shi'i side that you never had exposure to. And so I was led to believe that it was either one or the other, and slowly through meeting more people, I realized that that's not the case, first of all. And second of all, lots of commonalities between the two.
Coming from a place where I always had to be on the defense, and then going to a place where people are really accepting and really interested, like Noor was very interested in learning more about Shia Islam. It was a very good transition for me, and I feel a lot more comfortable in the skin that I'm in, which allows me to do so much more within the Muslim community.
A stigma was put up about what Shia Muslims were like, and they taught us especially about the differences in their belief and in their interpretations, which led us to believe that we were like so wildly different.
Well, even if you're on the same side, there are different ways that people practice depending on the community that they grew up in. There's also schools of thought. So there's a lot of intricacies and culture added to the religion that make the way people practice different. And I think once I came to the realization that I only practice the way that I do because of the family that I grew up in, from the country that we came from, and then I started studying Islam independently and seeing like what I truly believe in, I started not really minding like the differences, because I was like, okay, well, this is just the upbringing leading to them believing this way.
It's always the invitation. It's always that embracing welcome of, I want to learn more about you because you're Muslim, and because that's the one thing that we share that can't divide us apart. At the end of the day, we all worship the same God. We all follow the same prophet. And as long as we can relate back to that, then we could realize that we're a lot like the same.
The Islamic Center of New York University was built as a safe space for a diverse demographic of American Muslims. It is one of the few Islamic centers in the West that actively caters to both Sunni and Shia Muslims, with its attendance led by chaplains of various Islamic denominations and backgrounds. Imam Khalid Latif, Executive Director of ICNYU, helped lead the conscious decision to cater to both Sunni and Shia Muslims.
Whether you're Sunni or Shia, like, you're entitled to a relationship with God. And if you are now in a space where authoritatively you make decisions, you want to think about the complexity of the congregations that you don't just serve, but you have capacity to serve. I think it makes perfect sense that there's masjids that adhere to like particular schools of legal thought, theological thought. Being based out of a university in a place like New York City, we have Muslims that come from everywhere, and it's not for us to say that someone isn't entitled to access a space. Our students and community members have a deep love for our leadership here, and it's not conditional based off of what sect of Islam they follow.
Sheikh Fayaz Ja'far is an associate chaplain and research scholar at ICNYU. He is also a Shia Muslim and helps lead programs focused on catering to Shia Muslims at ICNYU, including trips to the religious sites in Iraq and an annual Muharram program commemorating Ashura.
I go to the very first Friday prayer on my first week of school, and I placed my prayer stone, turba, on the ground. It wasn't 2 minutes before the brother on my right-hand side, he tapped me on the shoulder and he said, please leave this prayer space because you're making it impure and najis for the rest of us. And for the first 2.5 years of my college experience, I would end up praying in a library staircase because that's the only place where I knew that no one was going to see me, nor that anyone was going to bother me. You don't fix 1,400 years of differences and division. What you do is demonstrate to people that you're a human being. At the end of the day, I am a Muslim American who cares about raising his children
and about making an impact in the world that I live in. And when we start understanding people on a level whereby we see them as human beings before we box them into labels, then we're going to be able to embrace the fact that, okay, we have differences with one another, but I can practice and do the things that I feel are right, and you can do the things that you feel are right, recognizing that there are 1400 years of theological, jurisprudential, political, economic differences. But we have an opportunity, again, to create a world whereby we understand one another for the first time, potentially.
As soon as you see somebody praying like this and then the other person praying like this, then the tension builds up there. You start thinking, is that a Shia Muslim? Are they praying in my mosque? Or vice versa? Like you feel like you can't go to each other's mosque and be comfortable there and how you pray, because you're going to be judged by the predominant Muslim community or the predominant sect. One of my biggest pet peeves is I want to talk to people about it. I want to talk to my parents about it, or like you said, the older generation, but they're so quick to shut down the conversation.
People all of a sudden become like muftis and Islamic scholars when it comes to this topic. So for us to be like, oh, you're wrong because of such and such, doesn't make sense to me, because I feel like very few people are allowed to do that.
We've moved on from that because we don't derive as much from hating. We don't necessarily move forward in our own agendas and our own lives by hating on stuff or hating on other people. And it goes over like the love over hate. And I genuinely believe that regardless of your differences, you should just love your Muslim brother or sister and take them for who they are, regardless of their sect, their madhab. I really think, inshallah, memes are going to bring us together.
I did not.
The people who seek to hold us down as Muslims, they're not asking whether we're Sunni or Shia. It's just more important that we adopt attitudes of compassion, love, understanding, and mercy.
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.